Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Beanie and welcome back to another review video. Guys, we are almost done with this. I realized that you guys want some different types of videos pretty soon, and we only have 2 more of these to go. I'm going to get these out in the next 2 days, and then tomorrow I'm going to have another video for you guys just to kind of break it up after we finish up with this. It'll probably be a gameplay video. So, and then after this, we'll probably start doing other stuff, you know, like top 10s or, you know, more gameplay or something like that. Let me know what you guys want in the comments. But anyways, today we are going to be reviewing the National League Central, and I gotta tell you, if you want pitching, this is the division for you. If you need a shutdown reliever, you can get it in this division. If you need a decent starter, you can get it in this division. And there's also one really good hitter too. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, first up, we have the 85 overall Kyle Schwarber. And if you're looking for a big power hitter, this is the only hitter in the division, then this could be an interesting guy to go after for a few reasons. One, he has a ton of power versus righties and a decent amount of power versus lefties, but really, this is probably a guy that you're going to end up wanting to platoon. I know some people that can hit lefty on lefty with this guy pretty good, but with the super low vision and the lack of contact versus lefties, I would kind of recommend getting a platoon for him just so you don't have to, you know, so you can have a better guy up there plus a right-handed guy up there whenever your opponent throws a lefty. But against righties, he's going to kill the ball. 88 contact, 109 power. And then the fielding is not going to be that great, though. I mean, he's gotten a lot better as the years have gone on. He's lost weight. He's gotten a little quicker, so he's a lot better in the outfield. But he's still, in 2015, he was pretty bad. You know, he was one of the worst defenders in baseball back then. So I'm kind of glad that they reflect that in his live series card, that he's gotten better. And in this card, he still kind of sucked. You know, that's very realistic. But there is one really intriguing option that you could use with this card, and that is to play him at catcher. Now, in the past, I've said that you shouldn't care about catcher defense. I've kind of moved off of that because it seems like catcher defense this year matters a lot more, so you might be a little reluctant to put him in there. I do think you can get by with it, though. I would almost rather have him at catcher than in, like, right field. Maybe it's close between catcher and left field, but to have a lefty power bat like this at catcher, it's pretty rare to get. Like, I don't think we're getting a Joe Mauer this year, so there aren't going to be that many catchers that can hit lefty and have this kind of power, if you know what I mean. So there is some value in that, and I did give him a small utility bonus because of that. So with all that being said, I ended up giving him a FAG of a 7.7. That seems maybe a smidge high, but given the fact that, you know, a power hitting guy that can play catcher and is left-handed is really rare, I think that that's about right. Maybe a couple points too high. Maybe I should scale that back to like a 7.5, but this is what the formula spit out, was a 7.7. So we're going to roll with that for now. Okay, now let's start getting into the pitchers, and the first one that we have is the 88 overall Johnny Cueto. A lot to like about this card, but it's not going to be like a shutdown ace. This is the kind of pitcher that you roll out for, you know, the first month or 2 of the season. He'll be solid for you. You know, he could probably give you 6 to 7 innings per game, and he'll give up, you know, 2 or 3 runs against a good opponent. And against a bad opponent, though, you can kind of use that change-up slider and fastball cutter mix to keep them off balance and everything, and you can get by a bad opponent pretty easily without giving up many, if any, runs. But against a good opponent, you're gonna have a bit of a tougher time. But he does have good per nines to kind of mitigate that. So that's why I say you can probably get through 7 with only giving up 2 or 3 runs with this guy. He does have good stamina, so maybe he could give you a complete game or 2 occasionally. But he does have great hitting K per 9, not great, good, I should say good, 88-80. In MLB 16, that would have been great. This year, it's just good. He also has fairly decent walk per 9, decent stuff, 80, 84 velo and break, and then his pitch selection really is just solid across the board. I kind of wish that they would have replaced that 2-seamer with a sinker just because they seem to be a little bit more effective. if he had that, I would honestly bump him up maybe even a full grade, because that sinker is just so important. But he does have a nice slow cutter that you can mix in there against righties that can be really effective. He has that slider and the changeup. Only a 9-mile-per-hour delta though between his four seam and his changeup. So overall, I would say this is a good pitcher, not a great pitcher, and I would give him an overall FAG of a 7.3. Okay, and after him, we have the 89 overall Rowley Fingers for the Milwaukee Brewers. And honestly, I kind of overlooked this card whenever I was making my other team affinity videos early on in the season. And that was just because in the past, Rowley Fingers hasn't had cards that were just amazing. I think he had one last year that was really good, but this card, specifically the one with this card art, has never been all that great. But the more I look at this card this year, it's really freaking nasty. It's one of the best team affinity rewards in the game, just from a pure grading standpoint. But you do have to ask yourself if a relief pitcher is worth that time investment that it'll take to pick him up. But overall, I mean, this guy has 92 hit per 9, 101 K per 9, 86 walk per 9, so you're going to have a ton of control relative to most relievers. He also has kind of a quirky delivery that's somewhat tough to pick up, especially with his pitch mix that we're going to talk about in just a second. And then his stuff, 83 velo, 91 break, everything is going to be moving a lot. It's going to be coming in pretty quick. And then the thing that I love about this card the most is that he can just give you a lot of different looks at the plate. He has that sinker at 93, he has that slider at 86, and then the killer, man, he has that fork ball at 80 miles per hour. That's a nice little pitch because it looks just like a four-seam fastball coming in. It drops off the table and it comes in, it just kind of floats in there, man. It's a really, really nice pitch. And having that 3-picks Mitch, I wouldn't throw his four-seam all that often. That seems if this card is going to get hit hard, it's probably going to come off the four-seam. This card is going to rely a lot on movement. And, you know, so I think mostly you want to rely on that sinker. But the good thing is that it's his primary pitch, so you can spam it all you want. So yeah, overall, this is a great card. Great card, one of the best team affinity rewards, and I ended up giving him a FAG of an 8.1. Next up, we have the Felipe Rivero, or the Felipe Vasquez, as he wants to be called now. And once again, we have another just shutdown dominant reliever. I don't think he's as good as the Rollins, but he's also a lefty, so that does add like a little bit of benefit to him. Sometimes it can be difficult to find really good lefty relievers in this game. He has 104 hit per 9, 84 K per 9, 71 walk per 9, which is better than most relievers, especially lefty relievers. So all that's great. He also has 80 home run per 9, which is pretty nice. And then the stuff is just amazing. I mean, he has a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. He has a changeup, curve, and slider that all have a ton of break on it. I remember a couple years ago, the Felipe Rivero version, I ended up loving that card because he had like a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And then his slider, for whatever reason, that year his slider was really, really slow, so it kept hitters like way off balance. This year, his slider is it's a little bit harder at 86. I think in that year it was like 80 or 79 or something like that. And his changeup, he throws it a little harder at 88, so there's not a huge delta there. And he has an 82-mile-an-hour curveball. I wouldn't throw that pitch a ton. It'd be mostly four-seam changeup, slider, maybe the curveball 5 to 8% of the time, something like that. It's kind of a vanilla pitch mix. Usually with a reliever, I like to throw in a sinker or a cutter or something like that, just because, you know, having that extra pitch there really helps. So that did knock him down a bit below the Rowley, but I still think that this is going to end up being one of the better left-handed relievers in the game, especially early on. And I ended up giving him a FAG of 7.8. Okay, and finally, we have the 85 overall Bob Gibson for the Cardinals, and honestly, this card just isn't all that impressive to me. He does have good hit and K per 9. It's kind of comparable to the Cueto. Also, the stamina is kind of comparable to the Cueto. But then that Cueto had really good walk per 9, and this Gibson doesn't. He only has 50 walk per 9. And so that means it's going to be a little tougher to control this guy. He's going to be a little wilder. You might walk some guys. You might not be able to hit your spots as effectively. And then his velo and break, it's good. It's better than the Cueto's, but you also have to apply that to his pitches. and he has a very, very vanilla pitch mix. He's a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, 88-mile-an-hour slider, 80-mile-per-hour curveball, and an 85-mile-per-hour changeup. That changeup is good with an 11-mile-per-hour delta, but it's not great. Usually for a starting pitcher, I've got to have a pretty solid changeup. He throws more of a hard slider than kind of a frisbee slider, and I prefer the frisbee slider. So I'm not a huge fan of that pitch. And then the curveball, it is kind of a slower curveball for a guy that throws so hard. So that's pretty nice, I guess, but overall, it's just too vanilla for me, and he doesn't have like elite per nines to really make up for it, and his control is kind of bad too. But still, I'm not gonna shit on this card completely, because I do think it's a solid card. I mean, if you were to get this card and stick him in your rotation right now, he would probably fit in there nicely for the next month. But after that, he's definitely going to be replaced, because he's just not good enough to go deep into this year's game cycle. And for all those reasons, I ended up giving him a FAG of a 7.0. Okay, guys, that is it for this video. Coming up next, we will finish the Team Affinity reviews up with the NL West. And then after that, we'll be done and we'll be able to move on to other things. And also, like I said, I'll have another video tomorrow just to, you know, kind of break things up a bit, because I know it's gotten a little monotonous other than the streams. Speaking of streams, I am going to try to stream tonight, but I've had kind of a busy day today, because today my mom was setting up a stand at a flea market, so I'm having to take care of our dogs and my grandmother and all this. So it was all I could to squeeze in a video now, but she should be done by like 7 or 8, I think. So whenever she gets home and everything gets settled in and everything, I think I'll be able to make a stream for you guys. So keep your fingers crossed. I'm not promising anything, but we'll see. So yeah, guys, I love you guys. I will see you guys later, but until then, peace.